Something familiar just walked back onto the stage at MetLife Stadium, and Bruno Mars fans noticed it almost immediately. After weeks of new looks, bold Charo-inspired outfits, fresh styling, special guests, unexpected moments, and unforgettable nights on the romantic tour, Bruno Mars decided to turn the clock back. Day 47 at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford brought back one of the most recognizable looks from the early era of this tour: the initial white suit. And for fans who have been following every single detail of the romantic tour, this was more than just another outfit change. Felt like a welcome back. Welcome back to the white suit. Welcome back to an earlier chapter of the tour. And perhaps most importantly, welcome back to the visual identity that helped define the beginning of this massive Bruno Mars era. If you've been following Bruno Mars, the romantic tour, MetLife Stadium, and every major moment from this journey, make sure you stay with us until the end. And if you are a hooligan, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Did you prefer Bruno in the original white suit? Or do you think his newer looks have been even better? Because tonight's return was not simply about fashion. It was about memory. It was about recognition. And it was about the strange feeling fans get when an artist brings something back that they thought belonged to an earlier chapter. Day 47 had already arrived with enormous expectations. MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford had become one of the central stages of Bruno Mars' latest US run. And after the intensity of the previous nights, fans knew they were entering another important chapter of the romantic tour. Every show on this tour has developed its own personality. The set list may have familiar foundations, but the atmosphere changes. The crowd changes. The guests can change. The wardrobe changes. The energy changes. And that unpredictability is part of what makes a Bruno Mars concert so difficult to look away from. You never know exactly what is coming next. One night can feel like a celebration of everything Bruno has built across his career. Another can feel like a tribute to an earlier version of himself. And then there are nights like Day 47, when one visual detail can suddenly connect the present to the beginning. The white suit did exactly that. For longtime fans, the reaction was immediate. There is something powerful about seeing an artist return to an earlier look after audiences have watched that artist evolve throughout an entire tour. At first glance, it might seem simple. A white suit. A familiar silhouette. A familiar Bruno Mars aesthetic. But in the context of the romantic tour, the meaning becomes much bigger. This tour has already created a visual language of its own. Bruno has experimented with different colors, different silhouettes, different hairstyles, and different stage personas. His fashion has moved between classic elegance, retro inspiration, romantic styling, and the distinctive Charo-inspired looks that became some of the most talked about moments of the tour. And then, suddenly, the original white suit returned. It was almost as if Bruno opened an old chapter of the tour and placed it directly in the middle of the present. That is why the phrase "welcome back" feels so appropriate. Welcome back to the beginning. Welcome back to the first impression. Welcome back to the version of Bruno Mars that fans first saw when the romantic tour began building its identity. And perhaps that is exactly why the moment felt so satisfying. Because nostalgia does not always need a speech. Sometimes nostalgia is a suit. Sometimes it is a hairstyle. Sometimes it is the first few seconds of a familiar song. And sometimes, all it takes is one look under the stadium lights for thousands of people to realize they are seeing something they remember. MetLife Stadium was already charged with energy. The venue has become a major stop in this US portion of the romantic tour, and the audience arrived knowing that Bruno Mars was capable of changing the atmosphere in seconds. That is one of the defining qualities of a Bruno Mars live performance. He does not need to rely entirely on spectacle. The spectacle is already there. The stadium is there. The lights are there. The musicians are there. The dancers are there. The crowd is there. But Bruno has the ability to make all of those elements feel like they are moving together. And when the white suit appeared, the visual connection was immediate. For a moment, fans weren't simply watching another concert. They were looking at a piece of the tour's history. Think about the journey. The romantic tour has moved through enormous venues, major cities, international stages, sold-out nights, special appearances, surprise moments, and countless fan reactions. From Europe and the United Kingdom to the United States, the tour has continued to evolve. The production has become familiar, but never completely predictable. That is the trick. Familiarity gives fans comfort. Unpredictability gives them a reason to keep watching. And Bruno Mars has managed to balance both. You know the songs. You know the voice. You know the stage presence. You know that the musicianship will be exceptional. But you don't necessarily know what Bruno will wear, who might appear, what spontaneous interaction might happen, or which small detail will become the next major talking point among fans. Day 47 added another detail to that growing story. The return of the initial white suit. And the timing made it even more interesting. After seeing Bruno embrace newer looks during the tour, the decision to return to this particular style created a visual contrast. One side represented the evolution of the romantic tour. The other represented its origins. New Bruno. Old Bruno. The current era. The beginning of the era. All meeting under the same stadium lights. That contrast is what made the moment so compelling. And here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Because when fans follow a tour this closely, clothing stops being just clothing. Every outfit can become associated with a particular performance, a particular city, a particular song, a particular memory. Fans remember what an artist wore because they remember what happened while the artist was wearing it. That is especially true with Bruno Mars. His image has always been closely connected to performance. The suits, the hats, the sunglasses, the shirts, the retro influences, the polished stage presence, the choreography, the band. Everything contributes to the identity. So when Bruno brings back a look from the beginning of the tour, fans naturally start asking questions. Why now? Was it simply a stylistic choice? Was it a nostalgic callback? Was it a way of reconnecting with the early days of the romantic tour? Or was Bruno simply having fun with his wardrobe? There is no need to invent an explanation. And that is important. The most interesting part of this moment is that fans can appreciate it without pretending to know what Bruno was thinking. The facts are enough. He brought back the initial white suit. He wore it during day 47 at MetLife Stadium. And fans immediately recognized the significance of the return. Sometimes the strongest stories are the ones that leave a little room for interpretation. That is what makes a live tour different from a studio recording. A recording can be repeated exactly. A concert cannot. Every night is a snapshot. Every performance is temporary. Every outfit exists for that particular moment. And when thousands of people see the same moment together, it becomes part of the collective memory of the tour. That is why fans document everything. Photos, videos, short clips, set list changes, outfit changes, guest appearances, stage interactions. Even small details can become huge conversation points online. And Bruno Mars has one of the most passionate fan communities in popular music. The Hooligans have followed his career for years, and the romantic tour has given them an entirely new collection of memories to archive. Day 47 now has one of its own. The white suit, the return, the welcome back, and the atmosphere of a stadium full of people realizing that something familiar had just appeared in front of them again. But there was another layer to the moment. The romantic tour itself represents a new chapter in Bruno Mars' career. The era surrounding his latest music has introduced a different visual direction, while still drawing from the classic influences that have always been part of his identity. That balance is important. Bruno has never completely abandoned the past. Instead, he tends to reinterpret it. He takes elements that feel familiar and gives them a new context. That is why the white suit fits so naturally into this story. It does not necessarily mean the tour is going backward. It can mean the opposite. It can show how an old visual can still work inside a new chapter. And that is one of the reasons Bruno Mars remains such a compelling performer. He understands the power of familiarity. He knows that audiences love recognition. They want the songs they know. They want the dance moves they remember. They want the moments that made them fall in love with an artist in the first place. But they also want something new. They want a surprise. They want a moment they can talk about after the concert. The white suit provided exactly that kind of small surprise. Not because it was loud, not because it was shocking, but because it was familiar. And sometimes familiar is more powerful than flashy. Imagine being inside MetLife Stadium. The lights are moving across the crowd. Thousands of phones are in the air. The sound of the audience rises. And then Bruno appears wearing the white suit that many fans associate with the beginning of this tour. For longtime followers, that first visual recognition is everything. You don't need an announcement. You don't need an explanation. You simply know. That's the suit. That's the look. He's bringing it back. And suddenly, the audience is not only watching the present. They're remembering the past. This is where the emotional side of the story becomes impossible to ignore. Concerts are built around memory. People attend because they want to hear music, but they also want to feel something. They want a moment that stays with them after the lights come back on. They want a story to tell. They want a photograph that instantly takes them back. The return of the white suit creates exactly that kind of memory. And because this happened on day 47, the number itself adds another layer. 47 shows into this chapter of the journey, Bruno can still surprise his audience with something as simple as an outfit. That says a lot about the strength of the production and the attention fans are paying to every detail. It also shows how far the romantic tour has traveled. What began as a new tour has developed its own history. There are early looks. There are iconic performances. There are different cities. There are different stages. There are different versions of the same songs. And now there are callbacks. That is when a tour starts to feel like a living story. Not just a sequence of concerts. A story. And day 47 added another page. But don't overlook the bigger picture. Bruno Mars is one of the world's most recognizable live entertainers, and his ability to blend pop, funk, R&B, soul, retro influences, choreography, musicianship, and fashion has always been part of his appeal. The romantic tour continues that tradition. The production is designed to feel large enough for stadiums while still keeping Bruno at the center. That balance is difficult. When a show moves into a stadium, scale can become overwhelming. But Bruno's performance style depends heavily on personality. The audience needs to feel that there is a person behind the spectacle. That is why small details matter. A smile, a gesture, a dance move, a change in styling, a familiar outfit. Those details can make a massive stadium feel more personal. And on day 47, the white suit became one of those details. Now here's the question fans will probably continue debating. Was this simply a one-night return? Or could the original white suit become part of the rotation again? That's the kind of question that makes a tour exciting. Because once an artist brings something back, fans start watching for the next appearance. They start comparing dates. They start looking at photos. They start asking whether another city will get the same look. And suddenly, wardrobe becomes part of the tour's storyline. That is the beauty of live entertainment. Nothing is completely guaranteed. Even when the core show remains familiar, the details can shift. And Bruno Mars understands how to use those details. The white suit did not need to dominate the entire night. It simply needed to appear. And once it did, it created a moment. A recognizable moment. A nostalgic moment. A Bruno Mars moment. The more you look at the journey of the romantic tour, the more meaningful that becomes. At the beginning of a tour, everything is new. Fans are learning the set list. They are learning the outfits. They are learning the production. They are discovering which songs become the biggest crowd moments. Months later, the tour has its own mythology. Fans know the patterns. They know the recurring moments. They know the songs. They know the costumes. So when something from the beginning returns, it feels different. It becomes a callback. A little piece of the tour's origin returning to the present. And that is exactly what Day 47 delivered. The white suit was back. The crowd was ready. Bruno was on stage. And the romantic tour continued moving forward while briefly looking backward. That combination is what made the night special. Not because it changed everything, but because it reminded everyone how much had already happened. 47 days. Countless performances. Millions of memories. And still, a simple white suit can make fans stop and say, "Welcome back." That may be the most fitting description of the entire moment. Welcome back to the beginning. Welcome back to the look that helped establish the era. Welcome back to the visual language of the early romantic tour. And welcome back to the kind of Bruno Mars styling that reminds fans why his stage presence has always been inseparable from his music. As the night continued, the white suit became more than a piece of clothing. It became a symbol of continuity. A reminder that while the romantic tour continues to evolve, Bruno can still return to the elements that made the journey special from the start. And that is where the real payoff lies. The biggest surprise of Day 47 wasn't necessarily a new costume. It was seeing an old one become new again. Because after everything Bruno Mars has done throughout this tour, sometimes the freshest move is to bring back something everyone already remembers. The white suit returned. The memories returned with it. And for the hooligans inside MetLife Stadium, that was enough to turn another concert night into another chapter worth remembering. The romantic tour continues, but moments like this prove that its history is already being written in real time. Every city gets its own memory. Every night gets its own atmosphere. And Day 47 now has a very clear identity. The night Bruno Mars welcomed back the initial white suit. A familiar look. A familiar feeling. A very different moment. And perhaps that's the real magic of Bruno Mars. He can make something old feel exciting again. He can take a familiar image and place it under completely different lights. He can give fans something they recognize while still making it feel like a surprise. That is how you keep a stadium audience engaged. That is how you turn fashion into part of the performance. And that is how a single white suit becomes a headline. So as Day 47 at MetLife Stadium comes into focus, one thing is certain. Bruno Mars did not need an entirely new look to create another memorable moment. Sometimes, the perfect surprise is the one fans already know. The white suit is back. The memories are back. And the romantic tour keeps moving forward. If you were there at MetLife Stadium for Day 47, or if you watched the moment online, what did you think when you saw Bruno Mars bring back the original white suit? Was it your favorite Bruno Mars look from the romantic tour? Or do you prefer the newer Charo-inspired outfits and the more recent styling? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to keep up with Bruno Mars, the romantic tour, MetLife Stadium, the latest concert moments, fashion changes, special appearances, and everything happening around one of the biggest live tours in the world, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. Because if Day 47 taught us anything, it's that even after dozens of shows, Bruno Mars can still bring something familiar back and make an entire stadium feel like they're seeing it for the first time. The white suit has returned, and what a welcome back it was. But the story of Day 47 does not end with the return of the white suit. In many ways, that was only the beginning of the conversation. Because once fans realized that Bruno Mars had brought back one of the earliest looks associated with the romantic tour, attention immediately shifted toward the bigger question. What does this moment say about the tour itself? After 47 days of performances, the romantic tour is no longer simply a new concert experience. It has developed a history. There are moments that fans remember from the earliest shows. There are performances that became unforgettable because of unexpected guests. There are outfits that became instantly associated with particular nights. There are songs that suddenly feel different because of something Bruno did on stage. And now, there is another visual callback to add to that growing history. The original white suit. For casual viewers, it might look like nothing more than another Bruno Mars outfit. But longtime fans understand why these details matter. Bruno Mars has always treated fashion as part of his performance identity. His suits are not simply clothing choices made before walking onto a stage. They are part of the character, the atmosphere, and the visual storytelling surrounding his music. That is especially obvious on a massive stadium tour. When thousands of people are watching from every angle, an artist needs a visual identity that can immediately communicate through the lights, cameras, screens, and social media clips. Bruno's classic suits do exactly that. And the white suit has a particularly recognizable quality. It is clean. It is elegant. It is timeless. And when placed under the dramatic lighting of a Bruno Mars stadium performance, it becomes instantly recognizable. That is why its return created such a strong reaction. The audience wasn't simply seeing Bruno. They were seeing a version of Bruno that they remembered. And nostalgia can be incredibly powerful. Think about how fans experience a long-running tour. At the beginning, everything feels like a discovery. Every costume is new. Every arrangement feels fresh. Every production element creates a new reaction. But as the tour continues, fans begin building their own memories around those elements. They start recognizing the patterns. They begin remembering which outfits appeared on which nights. They compare performances. They save clips. They share photographs. They discuss every change. Eventually, the tour becomes more than a concert. It becomes a timeline. And day 47 added another timestamp to that timeline, a timestamp marked by white. This is also why the return feels especially appropriate at MetLife Stadium. The venue has already become an important part of Bruno Mars' US tour story. Each performance creates another chapter, and each night gives fans another opportunity to see what might change. That anticipation is one of the most important ingredients in a successful concert tour. Fans don't want to feel like they are watching a machine repeat itself. They want consistency, but they also want surprise. They want to know that their ticket will deliver the songs and performances they came for, while still leaving room for something unexpected. The white suit delivered that kind of surprise without disrupting the identity of the show. It was familiar enough to feel nostalgic, but unexpected enough to become a talking point. And that balance is difficult to achieve. Bruno Mars has spent years building a reputation as a performer who understands exactly how to control a crowd. He knows when to increase the energy. He knows when to slow everything down. He knows how to use choreography. He knows how to use silence. He knows how to make a simple gesture feel bigger than it actually is. And he understands the importance of visual presentation. That combination is one reason his concerts continue to attract enormous attention. The music brings people into the stadium. The performance keeps them there. The personality creates the memories. And moments like the return of the white suit give fans something to talk about after the show is over. That conversation is already part of the experience. Because in the modern music world, the concert doesn't end when the lights go down. It continues online. A fan records a few seconds. Another fan posts a photograph. Someone notices a wardrobe change. Another person compares it with footage from an earlier night. Within hours, one small moment can travel far beyond the stadium. That is the power of social media surrounding a major concert tour. And Bruno Mars is particularly suited to this environment. His performances contain countless visual moments that translate easily into short clips. A dance move, a facial expression, a guitar moment, a crowd interaction, a special guest, a costume, a dramatic lighting sequence. Each can become a separate piece of content. The white suit is another example. It doesn't require a complicated explanation. Fans see it, recognize it, and immediately understand why it matters. But there is another reason the return feels satisfying. It reminds fans that Bruno Mars is not afraid to revisit his own history. Artists sometimes become trapped by the expectation that every new era must look completely different. New colors, new costumes, new hairstyles, new imagery, new branding. But Bruno's style has always been rooted in a mixture of classic and modern influences. He can introduce something new without completely abandoning what came before. That is exactly what happened here. The white suit belongs to an earlier moment of the romantic tour, but its return does not erase everything that came afterward. Instead, it connects the chapters: the early tour, the European and UK performances, the stadium era, the newer Charo-inspired styling, the US shows, and now the return to the original white suit. All of those moments belong to the same journey. That continuity matters, because the romantic tour is becoming more than a collection of dates. It is becoming an era, and eras are remembered through images. Sometimes one photograph becomes the image people associate with an entire period. Sometimes it is a stage design. Sometimes it is an outfit. Sometimes it is a single performance. For Day 47, the white suit may become one of those images. Not necessarily because it was the most dramatic thing that happened, but because it represented something instantly understandable. A return. Callback. A reminder. And perhaps even a thank you to the fans who have been paying attention from the beginning. There is also something very Bruno Mars about making a familiar suit feel special again. His entire musical identity has always involved looking backward and moving forward at the same time. His sound draws from different generations. His performances borrow from classic entertainment traditions. His fashion often carries retro influences, yet the final result still feels contemporary. That ability to make the past feel current is one of his strongest artistic qualities. The white suit fits naturally into that philosophy. It looks classic, but in the middle of the romantic tour, it suddenly feels new again. And this is where fans may begin looking even more closely at the remaining shows. Will another early-era outfit return? Will another familiar visual appear? Will Bruno continue mixing newer looks with older ones? Or was Day 47 simply a special one-night callback? There is no confirmed answer to those questions. And perhaps that's what makes watching the tour so much fun. Fans don't have to know everything in advance. They can simply watch. They can react. They can compare. They can speculate responsibly. And they can enjoy the moments when Bruno surprises them. That is the essence of a live performance. You can know the songs. You can know the venue. You can know the general production. But you can never completely predict the feeling of that particular night. Day 47 had its own feeling, and the white suit became part of it. Imagine looking back months from now and seeing photographs from the tour. You may find the extravagant outfits,